It was one of those nights that baseball fans will remember for decades, the kind of night when the world stops breathing for a split second, and every heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of the game. The World Series had stretched to its limits, and the scoreboard flickered under the late-night lights, Blue Jays versus the Dodgers. It was the bottom of the 18th inning, and the tension was so thick it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Shohei Ohtani stood near the dugout rail, his eyes locked on the field. His face was calm, but behind that calmness burned a storm. The camera caught a glimpse of him exchanging a look with Clayton Kershaw, two legends from different generations, two warriors who had carried teams on their backs. And now, they watched together as history unfolded before them. The dugout had gone quiet. Every player, coach, and staff member leaned forward as the batter stepped into the box. Ohtani's hands were clasped, his knuckles white. Kershaw rubbed the baseball in his hand, a nervous habit from years of pitching under pressure, even though he wasn't on the mound tonight. The weight of the moment hung between them. This wasn't just another inning. It was the 18th. 18 rounds of battle, 18 times the heart had to reset after near heartbreaks and missed chances. The crowd had gone from roaring to whispering, a strange hum of exhaustion and hope blending into the cold October air. Ohtani whispered something under his breath, maybe a prayer, maybe a pep talk to the baseball gods. Kershaw nodded quietly beside him, like he understood every unsaid word. That's the thing about baseball, you don't need to speak when the stakes are this high. The game itself speaks for you. Then came the pitch. The crack of the bat sliced through the silence like lightning. Everyone froze for a heartbeat, then the ball began its majestic arc toward right center field. The stadium erupted. Every single person jumped to their feet. The impossible had just become reality. The runner on second was flying around third base like a comet, arms pumping, eyes wide. The outfielder sprinted, the ball dropping just shy of his glove. And then, the slide, the cloud of dust, the umpire's arm shooting out. Safe. The walk-off that felt like destiny had arrived. The dugout exploded. Helmets flew, gloves tossed into the air, bodies crashing together in joy. But in the center of that chaos stood Ohtani and Kershaw, both frozen for a split second, overwhelmed. Then, like brothers reunited after war, they turned to each other, laughing, shouting, and nearly in tears. Ohtani's eyes were glistening. He wasn't just happy, he was moved. For him, this wasn't about stats or headlines. It was about the purity of the game. The journey. The shared pain of every inning that came before this one. And Kershaw, who had seen every kind of victory and heartbreak in his long career, just smiled and shook his head, almost in disbelief. The camera zoomed in. The two of them were laughing now, Ohtani's grin wide and unguarded, Kershaw patting him on the shoulder like an older brother saying, "We made it." Around them, the chaos continued, champagne bottles, shouting, fans crying in the stands, but that quiet exchange between two greats told the real story. In that dugout, you could feel something bigger than a win. You could feel connection, between teammates, between generations, between two countries even. Shohei Ohtani, the pride of Japan, and Clayton Kershaw, the American ace, standing side by side in the glow of victory. The Japanese camera crew caught the moment perfectly. Their microphones picked up the laughter, the small words, the emotion that words couldn't quite capture. And when Ohtani lifted his hands to wipe his eyes, the internet exploded. Fans back home in Japan were in tears. "Shohei's crying," one headline read. "The circle in the dugout is in tears," said another. It wasn't just a win. It was a moment that transcended language, borders, and records. It was baseball at its purest, raw, human, and unforgettable. As the celebrations continued, Kershaw sat down for a second, towel over his shoulders, just watching the madness. Ohtani came over, still smiling, and said something that made Kershaw laugh out loud. You could tell from their faces, it was probably something humble, something Shohei always says when the spotlight gets too bright. The camera lingered on them, two legends sharing a private moment in a very public triumph. Kershaw, the veteran, nearing the twilight of his career. Ohtani, the face of the future, the man redefining baseball itself. It was like seeing time fold in on itself. Behind them, the fireworks burst into the sky. The lights painted the field gold and silver. The fans refused to leave. It didn't matter that it was almost midnight. Nobody wanted this feeling to end. Ohtani finally stepped onto the field, joining the rest of the team for the handshake line, his jersey stained with dirt and sweat, his smile still glowing. Kershaw followed behind, clapping for his teammates, eyes misty. They met again near home plate, shared a brief hug, and disappeared into the crowd of blue jerseys. Later, in the locker room, the atmosphere was wild. Music blasting, champagne popping, laughter echoing. But Ohtani sat quietly for a few moments, towel over his head, eyes closed. You could tell he was soaking it all in, the journey, the sacrifice, the dream finally coming true. Reporters tried to talk to him, but when he finally spoke, his voice cracked slightly. He said, this is what we play for. This is why we love this game. And in that sentence, every fan around the world felt what he felt. Kershaw, in another corner, gave his own interview. His words were simple, grounded, full of wisdom. You fight for your brothers. That's what keeps you going, moments like this. Guys like Shohei. When he said Shohei's name, there was real admiration in his tone. Meanwhile, outside the stadium, fans waved Japanese flags and Dodger banners side by side. The chants of Shohei, Shohei, mixed with Let's Go Dodgers, until they became one voice. Baseball had done something magical, it had united people. Social media was flooded within minutes. Clips of the dugout moment, Ohtani and Kershaw's laughter, the tears, the celebration, spread across every platform. Comments poured in. This is why we love baseball. Ohtani is not just a player, he's an emotion. Kershaw deserves this ending. Sports writers tried to find words big enough to describe it, but most couldn't. Because how do you describe something that feels like poetry? How do you explain the look on Ohtani's face, that mix of pride, relief, and gratitude? In Japan, fans gathered in the streets, waving flags and chanting his name deep into the night. Kids wore Ohtani jerseys and mimicked his stance. Parents wiped tears as they watched the replay on TV. For them, it wasn't just about baseball, it was about seeing one of their own light up the biggest stage in the world. Back in Los Angeles, murals were already being planned. Artists wanted to capture that exact image, Shohei and Kershaw, laughing in the dugout, drenched in joy, framed by victory. That image became more than a picture. It became a symbol of respect, teamwork, and legacy. For Ohtani, the moment was more than personal achievement. It was a bridge, between Japan and America, between past and future, between two legends standing shoulder to shoulder. It showed what sports can be when played with heart. As dawn began to break, the stadium lights finally dimmed. The field was empty now, but the echoes of the cheers still lingered in the air. Somewhere in the locker room, Ohtani packed his glove, paused, and looked around. You could almost imagine him smiling softly, knowing this night would live forever. Kershaw walked past him, gave him one last pat on the back, and said something the microphones didn't catch. But the look on Shohei's face said it all. Respect, gratitude, brotherhood. And when the video clip hit YouTube, Shohei and Kershaw in the dugout during 18th inning walk-off victory, it became more than viral content. It became a memory millions shared, a piece of baseball history frozen in time. Even now, when you watch that clip, you can feel it, the energy, the love, the connection. Two players from different worlds, united by the same dream, standing in the dugout as legends are born. That's not just baseball, that's life.